Good morning, everybody. It's regularly scheduled meeting, Board of Fire Commissioners. Date is Tuesday, February 5th, and it's about 9:05.
Let the record reflect Commissioners Ibarra, Jara, and Nimberg, which we are present, and we have a quorum. Madam President.
Thank you. Flag salute, moment of silence.
Please stand, right hand over your heart. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silence and honor past and present members of the Los Angeles Fire Department who have devoted their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
So we start, as always, with Commissioner comments.
Well, the other day went to the event at Hotchkiss where the First Lady of Zambia, because of our sister city relation, Lusaka is a sister city of Los Angeles. LA County and LA City Fire Departments gave Zambia 4 apparatus, and the city apparatus, I must say, was much better than the county apparatus, but that's fine. Dr. Thomas Robertson was there, moderating the former dean at Southwest, I guess their university now, and then interestingly, and then everyone gave credit to our own Jimmy Woods Gray for a lot of the heavy lifting that she did to get this event going, and then we had the honor of hosting the First Lady of Zambia at Charles Drew University the following Monday, where we've actually had the Consul General of Zambia come give talks about twice a year at Charles Drew, so it was nice to have her there and to meet all of the faculty, as well as actually a number of the public health students actually regularly go to Zambia as part of their global health electives and everything. So.
Good morning. It just seems like it's been a while since we met. One of the things I want to say just at the very beginning, I know the holidays have passed us, but I forgot to acknowledge the arson department for their holiday party with the best chili in town. And I must thank them for inviting me to come and enjoy that chili. It was very good. The hospitality was very good over there, and I enjoyed that. I want to thank the fire department under Chief Terrazas' leadership, Chief Everett Graham, and Cheryl Katwisa. Got that name, finally learned how to say it. For all of the work that they did to help our sister city, Lusaka, to get the project as far along as it has gone. We had a great week with the First Lady of Zambia here in Los Angeles, and she truly enjoyed and appreciated the hospitality of the city. And our own Tom LaBonge was there to greet them when they first got here on the first day, gave them a tour on a big bus around all of Southern California, I guess, the LA area and Beverly Hills. And because when he was in the city council, was very big with sister cities. That was one of his, and he still works with them, even though he has no official capacity. He still is always there. So we appreciate the support that he also gave to them. They had a real need for fire equipment, and it just happened that our city council agreed with the chief's suggestion that we could share some of our surplus. And so the city council approved that and supported it, and that was, it made for a very, what started off to be seeming like a small project turned out to be a really huge project. But it was very good. And then we did that on Friday, and on Saturday there was a dinner sponsored by a group of African American women, and she was very she gave a great speech there, and anyone who wants to see it, there's an article in the LA Sentinel that kind of highlights some of the parts of it, of the dinner and the presentation at Hotchkins. And thank Dr. Hara for attending and also bringing some of the doctors from Drew who had an African connection. And then we had many of the chiefs were there, and a lot of fire people, so it was really great. Thank all of you for attending. I know you have many things to do, but that was a really great day, and the weather was just beautiful that day, since all the rain that we've had. I also attended the, and we had the support of the mayor's office all along the way also, with the Lusaka Sister City Project, and Chris was there representing him. And there's probably a lot of people who helped that I can never remember everyone, but the 3 city council members, Karen Price, Marquise Dawson, and Herb Wesson, and of course our supervisor, Mark Wrigley Thomas, were key people in this particular project. And on the Saturday, I went to the LAFD Youth Expo, which I was really impressed. I got there for the last session, which was 1 o'clock. Saturday turned out to be an interesting day. But they had a huge turnout, even for the 3rd session. And it was really, there were people there who were interested in all of the youth programs, and they were really asking questions and visiting all of the booths. It was really, I was impressed by that. So we want to thank Chief Kepner, Captain Mesa, and Patricia Arias for the work that they have been doing with the youth programs, which is just outstanding. They've moved it so far ahead from the 6 years ago when we first started. And I think that may be all that I can remember today. Thank you very much. Oh, no, I did have something else. Today is the beginning of the Chinese New Year. So we say happy, what is it, Gai Hei Fat Choi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to the Chinese community. And it's the year of the pig, which is a good year for me. And also the beginning of Black African American History Month, which is another. And I invite everyone to please attend some of the events that the mayor is having at City Hall. He has quite a few things planned over there. And starting this week, I think, or maybe next week, and I know on Sunday he kicks off the African American History Week month with a church service at First AME Church. It's at 9:45. So anyone who's interested in attending that is great. But please try to check out some of the events that the mayor has planned, because they're always really very, very good and very rewarding. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I do want to commend Commissioner Woods Gray on your leadership for getting the apparatus to Zambia. That was a huge lift, and thank the department as well. It was very generous, and you will have had a huge impact just by having that excellent apparatus, like you said, excellently maintained apparatus, as per usual. I was able to go to the LAFD Youth Expo, and it was so inspiring to see the outreach, to see Commissioner Glazier's vision actualized. No, seriously, it was a big deal. And that I just got a thank you note from one of the young women that was there. And man, if we can get her into this department, it was just seeing the citizens of Los Angeles have access to this department, and the diversity that was represented was really fantastic. And and I want to thank, of course, Patricia and Captain Mesa and Chief Kepner as well. They did a fantastic job. Let's see what else. Oh, I also want to thank the brush clearance unit and Chief Hayden. He hosted me and Chris from MOPS, and we had a fantastic meeting, and I look forward to working with them for some time. Thank you.
Madam President, there's one person I forgot to mention on the Lusaka project, and that was Isela. Isela helped to hold us together for all of these many meetings that we've had throughout the year, and we want to thank her for her services also.
Just to second the comments about the progress on our youth programming. I was not able to be at the expo, but I did hear great things about it, and heard great progress that we're making on bringing those programs together and growing our cadet programs and our fire academies. So we're making good progress there, and appreciate everybody who's gotten behind the programming to help ensure that it's resourced correctly and that we're continuing to grow that. Really excited about the next possible step of train to hire program. If we can continue the path of diversity that we've got, the diversity makeup that we have in our youth programs, and make that a pathway into the department, we will have no problems hitting our goals, our diversity goals for this department in the future. So the future looks bright if we can pull that off. Also, thank you, belated thank you to Fire Station 104. I had a great ride along with them a while back, but enjoyed the time I spent with them. That's what I've got. Thanks.
And I want to thank Fire Station 11. I don't know if it was A, B, or C, but I went on a ride along with them for like 2 hours, and we had 4 what do you call these, like alarms, false alarms. So it was interesting. Great station. So thanks. So moving along to report of Fire Chief.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everybody. On January 21st, we participated in the annual MLK Kingdom Day Parade, and Commissioner Hart and Woods Gray joined us, as well as several of our chiefs. Great day, great event, great crowd. On January 24th, we attended the UCLA paramedic graduation class of Class 59. We had 8 department members, 6 sworn firefighters, and 2 cadets that were sponsored through the paramedic program. That night, we attended the Chief Officer Association retirement dinner for retired Chiefs Fox, Ulrich, and Akahoshi. The next day, on the 25th, was the Lusaka presentation. We had a city council presentation in the morning, and then later we did the formal presentation of the apparatus at Hodgkins. And I concur, it was an excellent event, well attended, very proud of our apparatus, like everybody's mentioned. You can clearly tell which one's the city and which one was the county. So I'll stop at that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So moving on to significant incidents from January 15th to February 4th.
Good morning, Madam President, Fire Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney Isela, and guests. My name is Philip Flegel, Deputy Chief Operations Central Bureau. I'd like to share with you this morning a review of the Swiftwater rescue incident that occurred on February 3rd, 2019 at 12:43 hours in the afternoon. On that morning, Los Angeles Fire Department responded to a report of a person that fell into the Arroyo Seco River at Avenue 26 in Fire Station 1's first end, located in the Cypress Park neighborhood of the city. In exactly 3 minutes and 6 seconds, first arriving LFD resources arrived on scene at the point last seen where their victim was thought to be falling into the water. Reports from bystanders reported that the victim was in the attempt to walk across the Arroyo Seco wash and fell into the river segment and was now in the water and headed for the bifurcation where the LA River meets. Other LAFD first responders from Swiftwater Dispatch, which included specialized trained Swiftwater rescue teams, air, and command resources, immediately developed a plan to provide flotation and rescue sites down the LA River so the victim could be extricated from the rapidly removing water. Within a minute of arriving on scene, LAFD resources spotted the victim in the LA River near the Cesar Chavez overpass. Due to the dire circumstances of the victim, a decision was made to attempt a dynamic rescue from the helicopter. A firefighter paramedic was surgically lowered down from the helicopter down to the victim in order to attempt a rescue. Thanks to the skill and the expertise of the pilot and the rescuer, the victim was successfully captured and hoisted back into their helicopter. Once the victim was safely inside the helicopter, the patient received immediate care for abrasions and hypothermia. The victim was then transported to a local area hospital where he was evaluated for further injuries. There were no other civilian injuries or first responder injuries at this incident, and at its height, there was 55 firefighters and paramedics that were assigned to this particular incident. Just also want a point of note, in the last 4 days, there have been 3 swiftwater rescues within the LA River that all have been successful, thanks to LAFD resources and our first responders. Are there any questions for me at all? All right, thank you.
Thank you. So now verbal report by the medical director on the same time period, January 15th, February 4th.
Good morning, Madam President,
Morning.
Commissioners, Chief Terrazas again, good morning, City Attorney Isela. I'm Ellsworth Fortman, Assistant Bureau Commander of the EMS Bureau. The incident I'm going to talk about today was on January 31st, where Light Force 98 and Rescue 98 responded to a cardiac arrest in the Pacoima area. It was a 51-year-old male they responded to. He was had been choking on some food. The dispatcher call taker did a great job of directing the family and bystanders through CPR. When our resources arrived on scene, about 4 minutes later, CPR was still in progress. It did take them about 4 minutes to remove the lodged object from the man's throat using the McGill forceps. However, they were successful in doing that. They continued with intubation, IV, medications, CPR, transport to the hospital. Within about 3 to 4 minutes after they got meds on board and IVs, the man did start to regain consciousness, started breathing on his own, ended up with very stable vital signs, blood pressure, and everything else once he was transported to Holy Cross. And so we're happy to report there was a very good outcome, very good save. And once again, starting with our call takers, dispatchers doing a great job with the immediate CPR instructions, and then follow up with the excellent actions of our firefighters and firefighter paramedics. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we have one presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners,
Morning.
Fire Chief Terrazas, City Attorney Missany. Yes, this is Eric Scott, Fire Captain Paramedic and Public Information Officer. This morning we really have a beautiful story of a young 2-year-old girl that was a drowning victim and was given a second chance at life. And this was due to bystander CPR and our great firefighter paramedics. But the incident took place on a sunny day in August 20th last year in Boyle Heights. When our firefighters arrived on scene, they found this beautiful 2-year-old girl, Sophia Rojas, unresponsive outside near an above-ground pool, and the father performing CPR on his own child with the help of a 911 dispatcher. Answering that 911 call was firefighter paramedic Christian Brown. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here with us today, but we often talk about response times and our units being on scene within 5 minutes. But due to our unique dispatch center and that we have our own experienced firefighters there, they provide immediate life-saving instructions, often based upon their own experience of being in the field, and are really second to none. And as Chief Fortman brought out in his presentation, so often many of us like to say that there's frequently a 0 response time with our MFC members. But the dispatcher took control of the incident very quickly, calmly, provided instructions to save a life. Now, simultaneously en route with lights and sirens was Engine 25 and Paramedic Rescue 25. We'd certainly like to ask those members to please join us here next to the podium. And on duty that day was Captain Adam Van Gerpen, firefighter paramedic Gregory Lewis, firefighter Jesus Rossetti, firefighter paramedic Ivan Coven, and firefighter paramedic Daniel Sandoval. Now, this crew not only utilized their talent and training, but they had to keep their personal emotions in check as they worked feverishly to save this little girl, which is every parent's nightmare, and many of these are parents themselves. But due to their quick response, their treatment, their rapid transportation, once cold and lifeless body of a little girl was warm, breathing, with a beating heart, and actually at the time at the ER speaking to her mother.
So this team performed with such skillful profession and dedication. We really had a miraculous outcome to a horrifying situation. But we also are honored today, as you could see, to have the family with us. And we'd like to ask Sophia and her family to please stand up here as well. And we certainly would like to commend Sophia's mom for contacting 911 so quickly. That established the first critical link in the chain of survival. But overall, it is an incredible incident here that highlights the importance of early CPR, the importance of our calm 911 dispatcher's instructions, and the importance of great teamwork by our firefighter paramedics here behind us. And when we put all that together, astonishing things happen. And lastly, we'd like to read a certificate. In recognition and sincere gratitude for your heroic courage, diligent efforts, personal initiative, and expedient assistance, which directly resulted in saving a 2-year-old during a drowning emergency on August 20th, 2018 in Boyle Heights, the Los Angeles Fire Department commends you for your extraordinary, life-saving efforts to a citizen of the city of Los Angeles, presented this 5th day of February 2019, Fire Chief Ralph M. Terrazas.
We are firefighters because we believe in the mission to protect lives and property. And this is an example of a very successful chain of survival. And it started when they called 911 and a dispatcher picked up the phone. And because we have our tier dispatching system now, we're a little bit faster in taking calls and dispatching resources. And as that was happening, Engine and Rescue 25 were dispatched simultaneously to the call. The dispatcher was probably on the line all along, giving instructions, and then we supported it when we got on scene with our medics and our firefighters. And they quickly stabilized Sophia and took her to the hospital. And here she is standing with us like nothing had happened. A little smiling little girl who has her whole life ahead of her because of our system. And it's not the system, it's the people who are in the system. So I'm tremendously proud of the men and women of the Los Angeles Fire Department, tremendously proud of these special occasions where we can see the successful outcomes. Because many times we are not successful because of the situation we find when we get on scene. So this is a success story. I'm tremendously proud, and I congratulate everybody involved. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Fire Commission, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney, Captain Adam Van Gerpen, and like the Chief said, we all have those significant calls that we have that we never forget, whether they're positive or negative, and like this was one of those positive outcome calls that none of us will ever forget. But there was several contributing factors to the success of this call. It started, like Chief said, with the dispatcher. We got there and good CPR was being done by the dad, life-saving CPR. That was very important in saving the life. Also was the rapid response. We all go to these fire stat meetings, and they talk about the importance of hitting en route, getting on scene, and this is one of those calls where we really had to do that. I'm also on the EMS committee, and we talk about how can we make things better. Well, our rescue had earlier been canceled from a BLS call. We had a 800 came and transported a patient. Now my rescue is available for those life-saving calls. So another contributing factor, we had 5 paramedics on this call. So 5 out of the 6 were all paramedics. So and the level of training of my crew here, these guys are all 15-plus year medics. but we have Jesus Rosete, very competent medic. He just finished probation. So Greg Lewis here, he was a former lifeguard, very experienced lifeguard. He took life-saving steps that many firefighters may not do. He evacuated the water out along with Ivan Koven. And just the experience of our crew, our rapid response time, and our rapid transport to the hospital. She's alive here today, so. So just want to congratulate my crew and thank the family for coming up here. And this is seen here. I think I speak for all of us. It means the world. So Sophia.
Mom wants to say a couple words in Spanish.
Buenos días. Antes que nada, quiero dar las gracias por la invitación que nos hicieron.
Good morning. Good morning. She wants to say thank you for inviting us today.
Y quiero dar las gracias a Dios y a mi hijo que ayudó a mi hija en dar el CPR y de los bomberos que llegaron a darle la atención que necesitaba y muy agradecida con ellos porque hicieron todo lo posible porque mi hija está aquí.
I also want to thank God, and I want to thank my son who assisted with the CPR, and I want to thank these firefighters and paramedics who also helped save my life, my daughter's life, who's here with us today.
Y gracias. Muchas gracias a todos.
Thank you all.
Gracias por su trabajo.
Okay, we're going to invite everybody to pass forward here, and we're going to take a group picture.
Stand behind him. Set you guys up. Here we go, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we got it. Excellent. Our commissioner. All right. Everybody, here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3.
I'm getting older now. I couldn't remember. I mean, I understood every word for word, but she kept on talking. I would have cut her off at about 5 words. Exactly. He remembered all of it. Like, yeah, he's pretty good. He remembered all of it. I see. I knew what she said. I just couldn't remember to say all of it.
You could do that too.
No. I could do it. No, but I'm saying no. I couldn't. It's like doing the oath of office.
Right.
You know, if you do like 12 words, they can't remember. You do 5 words, and then
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Felicidades a todos, eh? Felicidades a todos. Ronnie Villanueva, sus órdenes.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just wanted to acknowledge paramedic Ivan Koven. He was the firefighter who visited my school every month when I was teaching.
Wow.
And he became so popular there that he was going to other classrooms, reading his book on this little fire truck. But the kids would sit and listen, just listen. They were in awe of him. And then he started doing it all over the whole school. So he's really great with reading to kids. That's something we might think of in the future, a program where we go and share, have firefighters do other things with kids so that they know the value of reading. It goes beyond just the classroom.
That's awesome.
But I can thank him, for that service.
Great, thank you. Okay, consent agenda items.
Okay, move to adopt adopt recommendations for items 4A through 4G.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So our first regular agenda item is the report by the department on unwanted alarm enforcement program.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, Council, and Acela. My name is Kristen Crowley. I'm the Deputy Chief in charge of our Fire Prevention Bureau, and I'm here to report on our fourth quarter and third quarter unwanted alarm enforcement program. The Fire Prevention Bureau continues to develop and evolve our unwanted alarm enforcement program. The goals of this program are to increase our enforcement, recuperate cost, and reduce overall unwanted alarms. We have taken a multi-step approach to decrease unwanted alarms within the entire city. First, the LAFD has instituted a department-wide policy where field resources utilize an FPB, Fire Prevention Bureau referral form to notify our bureau when the field actually encounters multiple false alarms in one occupancy. The specific criteria is consistent, and in order for the field to report this to us, the actual false alarm has to occur within 3 false alarms in the same occupancy over a 30-day period. So reporting on the third and fourth quarters of 2018, the Bureau received 158 requests from the field resources. This equates to an overall increase of 27% compared to first and second quarter. The FPB believes this increase is due to the overall outreach and education to the field of how to utilize the referral forms. And once we get the referrals, they're vetted out by members assigned to our research and legal units, and then they're forwarded to the most appropriate section within the Bureau to handle and follow up. To date, we've addressed 135 of these referrals, which is 83% of occupancies. Those have actually been repaired and are functioning properly. There are 23 or 17% of the occupancies are still pending repair and or recertification. The Bureau continues to run our monthly audits on unwanted alarms using the same criteria as the field. For the third and fourth quarter of 2018, the Bureau recorded a total of 142 occupancies with 3 or more unwanted alarms in a 30-day period. The Bureau is working closely with these occupancies to remedy the problematic alarms, and our next step within our first and second quarter of this year will be auditing this information and tracking it, and to see what the overall resolutions are, and we'll also be tracking how much time it takes to repair the problematic systems. Thirdly, the Fire Prevention Bureau continues to work very closely with Los Angeles World Airports to decrease their overall unwanted alarms. We have identified the majority of these unwanted alarms occur during their construction and between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. There is a decrease in overall automatic alarms in the fourth quarter, and this is most likely due to the decrease in construction activities during the major holidays occurring in that time period. We are in the process of researching best practices for other large airports and understanding how they reduce their unwanted alarms, and working with LAWA's management to provide policy and procedure recommendation changes to reduce the unwanted alarms in the airport. And lastly, in partnership with the City Attorney's Office, an unwanted fire alarm ordinance has been drafted to support this program. Implementing a fee and fine program for unwanted alarms may allow our department to recover revenue to offset the expense of deploying unnecessary resources to unwanted alarms, and it may also reduce the overall unwanted alarm occurrences. The draft ordinance is currently in its final review process with the City Attorney's Office, and once the review is completed, the draft ordinance will proceed through the various City Council committees for review and final approval. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. So, like I mentioned, I was at 11th a couple of Saturdays ago, and I was only there for 2 hours, and there was 4 false alarms that we went on. It was the only calls that I went on, and it hadn't dawned on me that it was such a big problem, and I'm wondering if it's like if it's maybe geographically related because of where 11th is, or maybe that it was a Saturday, so they were unoccupied.
Right.
I don't know, but it just seemed like a big problem.
Right. It is a big problem. So in 11's first in, historically, they do have a larger unwanted alarm occurrences within their first in. The key to that, at least on the front end, is if they go to that multiple times, which would be under that criteria of 3 or more in 30 days, then our objective is to have the experts within the Bureau, which are our inspectors, address those problematic occupancies. In the past, our captains were going back and forth trying to work with the building owners, whereas we have the leverage within our legal side or enforcement side to actually assist the building owners to fix their problematic alarms. So that's just one of the 4 different steps that we're taking. But was it raining that day?
It wasn't.
Okay,
no.
yeah. Normally we do see...
It might have been earlier, but it wasn't when it was.
Normally we do see an uptick during rainy occasions, that there's an uptick in overall unwanted alarms. But if they can push us that information, then we can address it appropriately.
Okay, thanks.
No, I agree. It is a huge problem and expensive.
Right.
This draft ordinance, you said it's similar to LAPD's?
It is similar to LAPD's burglar alarm.
Yeah.
That has already been in the works for a few years. I'm not sure how long they've been utilizing it, but we did somewhat look at the positive impact on their program, and our draft is somewhat similar to their unwanted, burglar alarms. So it's similar to.
So it'll increase, like after the first one, there's no fine. Second one, there's a fine. Third one grows.
Right. Well, we have specific criteria that are a little bit different, but that's what we're still vetting out with the city attorney, whether or not the fee will occur on the first unwanted alarm or the second or third.
Okay.
So that's still in the works.
Okay, good. Because I was thinking that I know that this program here is 3 in 30 days, or I think it's 3 times in a 24-hour shift. That seems like a high threshold.
Right, but that's not what's in our current ordinance that's being drafted.
Right.
So it'll be very specific in the criteria of when the building owner will be sent a fee, and then as they have additional unwanted alarms, that fee increases exponentially.
I think it's fantastic, because I think it'd be a great deterrent and certainly will save a lot of these calls.
Correct.
For sure. Do you know when that's going to be due?
No, we're still waiting. It's pending in the city attorney's office.
Okay, excellent. Thanks.
Hi. Thanks for the update. Couple of questions. So for third and fourth quarter, we had 18,000 automatic alarms. Presumably not all of those were unwanted alarms. Some of them may have been legitimate alarms, right?
Right.
We had 158 referrals from field personnel. It's great that the number's ticking upwards, but as a comparison to the number of automatic alarms that actually were happening, it's still probably relatively low. So I know education process of the field can be slow, but whatever else we can do to try to communicate to them that they have this option beyond just being mad about it, right. To actually address their own situation by referring that. I think I don't know if there's I don't know what you can do there to try to get the word out to people that in the field that this is a great option for them to help deal with the problem. But would love to see that number just continue to rise. I know it's only in your control to the extent that you can communicate it, but encourage you to keep thinking about how this can be communicated outwards, just to try to increase the rate of reporting on that. On that 18,000 number, that is controlling for double dispatches, right? That is a clean.
That's my understanding. Number. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You said for the third and fourth quarter, FPU recorded 142 occupancies with 3 or more unwanted alarms in a month. Is that based on field reporting or CAD data?
That's CAD data. So we're kind of looking at it from 2 different approaches. One is from a field referral, and then we're also doing our own internal audit based off of the same criteria within CAD. So even if the field does not actually refer it to us, then we should be capturing it on the back end when we do our audits. So
Okay.
that's where the 142 come from. So we'll continue down that road as well.
Okay, so based on that, then is it? If you look at that 18,000 number, is it? How do you?
I think the difference
reconcile
is because we do have a specific criteria. If we wouldn't capture that if they had 2 in a 30-day period, the threshold would be 3. So once we start to watch the trends, we could potentially bump it down to 2, and I'm sure we'd even get more referrals.
Yeah.
And or if the wonderful thing about the referral form is even if if they do get frustrated with this really problematic, whatever the issue is with the fire prevention issue, we've been getting other referrals that way as well. So then the Bureau takes the lead on that, and then that way the field doesn't have to be concerned and we'll follow through with the enforcement side. So, but I think that has to do something specifically with the criteria.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if that's it's possible that criteria is a little too narrow. If that's if it's the number's that low of what we consider to be referable compared to an 18,000 overall, I would expect that number to be higher. I don't know. It's just me speculating kind of fairly wildly, but it would seem like if there's that many automatic alarms that there would be a higher percentage of them would be considered to be unwanted that might warrant a referral and an investigation. So I just encourage you to look at that data and think about whether you've set the threshold a little too high for referrals to see if we can approach more buildings about it. Just also given, I don't know if UFLAC's been a partner with you in terms of communicating about the referral, but given that this seems to be a pretty constant irritant for their membership, perhaps they could be a partner in helping to communicate as well about the value of reporting to FPB and getting support on that.
Right, absolutely. And just to address the overall 18,000, once that ordinance gets pushed through and is approved, the very front end of it, that 5,463 incidents where we're dispatched and canceled, those are going to be captured right off the bat. And that's the way the ordinance is currently written. So right there, we take those 5,468 incidents, that would be plugged into that ordinance because we figured that if a company is dispatched and then canceled, that's a faulty fire alarm system. So that would fall into the category that's written in that ordinance where the threshold would be there would be a fee to that.
Although I suspect there's a fair number of pull stations that get canceled out in there, which you might...
Yeah, it's just a smaller number, but the majority of them are mainly faulty alarms.
And you'd be able to tell
Right.
in the report if they could say, well, it was a pull station, they'd be able to show that.
Right.
Okay. On the rain events, how do we make it an official position of the department that we want to alter the fire code to increase waterproofing requirements for alarms?
That can happen. It's a matter of us just working that in through when we adopt the new fire code. So that's something obviously we can explore to see what kind of phraseology we would need to insert into our municipal code. So that would come with research and development. But the time is now. We actually have a committee working on that as a whole. So that will be added in there as well.
Yeah, so if we could just... I'd rather adopt whatever that code language is sooner rather than later so that is done and it goes in, doesn't get lost. So if that could be a future report where we actually see a language to be added to the fire code to say that waterproofing has to be put in place so that we don't see these... Because I see on Pulse Point, I'll look on the rain event, you just see it's just littered with alarms up and down. So if I could put that request in, that'd be something that comes back to us. What's a reasonable time frame for that to come back?
I'd say 6 months. We'll have the phraseology and we'll work with the city attorney on that.
Great, so prior to end of 2019.
Sure. We can report back on that.
Okay, great. And then the last on the airport, aside from just the researching of best practice of other airports, what else is underway as far as partnering with them?
Just where we're working directly with our assistant chief, Chief Berdawi, who's now the official liaison. So we've already just initiated the dialogue with meeting with the right people over at LAWA to allow us to express our recommendations. It's an internal policy or procedure for LAWA to modify how they report their unwanted, or I should say their automatic alarms. So that's where we are at this point, but we're making some progress on it where now we know the proper people to speak to, and we've done the initial, I should say, research on what we could recommend.
Yeah. I know the poll stations don't seem to be a big number, but again, those pre-alarm covers there seem like that could be a cheap and easy.
And that is actually one of our recommendations to them.
Okay, and then while we're talking to the city attorney and they're in their lengthy final review process, perhaps we could ask that they consider adding in a a provision that allows us, where it comes to the airport or other government agencies, since it's not really realistic that one department is going to fine another department, but where contractors are involved, perhaps we could add into the ordinance that there is a mechanism to fine contractors directly who are working within government agencies if we find that they are responsible for an unwanted alarm, rather than only allowing us to fine a property owner. So I would ask that that be considered as an addition to the ordinance to allow for that to happen. And that way, when it comes to the airport, for example, we take the burden off the airport to say, you need to go to your contractor and make them pay so that you can pay us. And it's just a straight, we go to the contractor and say, listen, you didn't put the dust cover up or you didn't secure the alarm and you owe. Now, which I think goes more to the source of the of that. Is it could that be something we put into the hopper with them before that gets to? Well, we still have a chance in the draft.
We'll work with the city attorney and be advised.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for making progress on this. I was remarking to a colleague that this is. It's good to see progress, but I remember that my first awareness of this was in my second week on the commission when I had lunch with then UFLAC President Lima, and he said, "What are we going to do about these false alarms?" So if we keep on pushing, hopefully we get it done before they kick me off this thing. But thank you for your work on this. I know that it is a complicated issue, so I appreciate you guys continuing to plug away at this. Thank you.
Thanks. So.
Move to receiving file item 5A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to second report is a report by the department on the Coupa update for the second quarter of 2018-19 from October 1 to December 31 of 2018.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney Acela. Royce Long, Cooper Program Manager for the Fire Prevention Bureau, and today I'm going to give an update on the Cooper inspection activity for the second quarter of the fiscal year. We work on a fiscal year, which is October through to December. The 4 programs being revised today include the Hazardous Materials and Business Emergency Plan, the Underground Storage Tank Program, the California Accidental Release Prevention Program, and the Above Ground Petroleum Storage Tank Program. So as far as program inspections go, we're in the second quarter, it's finished, and we should be through about 50% of our inspections, and we're pretty much spot on in all the programs. They all exceeded 50%. The underground storage tank program was at 49. That's within parameters, and there's no problems there at all. For the overdue inspections, we have about 40 to 50 inspections that are overdue right now between those programs, and that's pretty standard. We have about 8,000 facilities that we inspect, and sometimes we have trouble getting through to facilities, especially if they're remote sites, so we can coordinate inspections, and also government sites sometimes hard to get into. Regarding enforcement, we did 3 cases over the last quarter. It's the holiday period, so it's a little bit slower, but and over those 3 cases we received $21,000 in penalties. And for the year, we typically range between 40 and 50 cases, and we do about $600,000 in penalties every year. And then in terms of staffing levels, we have 38 Cooper staff, and then we have 10 openings. Well, we have 10 vacancies right now, not 10 vacancies. We have 2 IODs, and we have 3 admin clerks we need to fill. And then we have some positions, 5 positions that we need to get through the Civil Service Commission. And then just lastly, we've been notified by the state their evaluation is coming up. And so that'll start in October. It will go for 3 months and finish up in January. So we started prepping for the evaluation last year for about 4 months in the last year. And that'll continue through till October. So there's a lot to do. But I'm pretty sure we'll be ready by that time. All the inspectors kind of jumping on board, and everyone's well aware of it and very cognizant of it. And hopefully we'll do well. As I mentioned before in commission, every Cooper usually gets some deficiencies during the evaluation, and it's just a matter of continual improvement. So, I'm expecting to get a couple. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be, but, I wouldn't be surprised if I come here and report to commission we get a few. So in summary, I think we're performing very well right now. Things are going good. I'd like to thank the Chief Terrazas, Chief Mathis, Chief Crowley, and Chief Harvey for their support. Without them, we really couldn't get the program to where it is today. So thank you very much. Any questions?
How often do we get evaluated by the state?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. No, just good job. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, move to adopt the recommendation for item 5B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So third report is report by the department on the fire prevention inspection activity, fourth quarter calendar year. And
It's me again.
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Kristen Crowley, and I am the Deputy Chief in charge of our Fire Prevention and Public Safety Bureau. I'm here to present our fire prevention's inspection activity for the fourth quarter of calendar year 2018. We have submitted a 14-page performance-based inspection activity report outlining 3 of our 4 sections, which include our public safety section, industrial commercial section, and our fire development services. Our 4th section is our Certified Unified Program Agency, or CUPA section, in which Royce Long had just reported on their progress. I'll touch briefly on our overall performance. On page 2 of the report, there's a broad overview of our calendar year completing 17,219 inspection, which equates to overall 93%. For the fourth quarter, we completed 22% of our initial inspections, and we have continued to stress and prioritize the importance of completing our re-inspections. For the fourth quarter, we've completed 1,141 re-inspections, which is an equivalent to 23% overall. For the fourth quarter, and for the calendar year, we completed a total of 5,017 re-inspections. And one of our greatest challenges continues to occur when one of our inspectors is off duty due to a long-term illness or injury. And for the calendar year, we had a total of 1,195 days of productivity lost where our members were away from work. And I'd like to commend our unit and section commanders, our inspectors, civilian staff, all for stepping up their efforts to manage all these vacant districts. Focusing on a few areas of the report, in our industrial commercial section, I'd like to take some time to recognize our high performance areas. These statistics are on page 3 of the report. These high performing units include our central industrial unit, which hit 97%, our high rise unit at 100%, our valley industrial unit at 100%, and our harbor industrial unit is 100%, and that's not including our oil well program, and I'll talk about that next. Due to our continual fire stat process, we have recognized the need to better manage our oil well program. We elected to separate the oil well inspections from our harbor industrial unit statistics. The oil well program will now be monitored and managed as a separate program. This allows for more accurate identification of both performance and resource deployment. The oil well program completed 46% of the initial inspections, and on page 4, you'll see the early warning report for overdue inspections showed 663 overdue inspections that are 6 to 12 months overdue. We attribute these shortcomings to a number of identified issues. One is we did move the oil well earlier this year from harbor to Koopa and then back. So we lost some significant ability to conduct our inspections, plus we had to train some new inspectors, and moving that back and forth did cost us some, valuable time for our inspections. Secondly, we identified that we have a single source of failure in which we have assigned only one fire inspector one to conduct the 1,200 oil well inspections on an annual basis, and we understand and we can see that doesn't work. So the path forward. For 2019, we're implementing an aggressive training program to augment and provide additional harbor industrial unit inspectors to assist with oil well inspections, witnessing of abandonment of oil wells, and to address our succession planning, as well as this will also eliminate the single source of failure within the oil well program. The plan will have, our plan will include that we'll have our tenured inspectors currently assigned to our harbor industrial unit, sharing 1/3 of the oil wells and redistricting the remaining workload by 1/3. In addition, multiple inspectors will also be trained to the oil well abandonment process, which is very time consuming as well, and that's part of the oil well program. On page 5, overall, I want to talk about our public safety section, and they completed 98% overall of their annual inspections and 23% in the fourth quarter. Even with a total of 456 days of productivity lost, all units within the public safety sections performed at a very high level, ranging from 96% to 100% respectively. I'd like to recognize the members of our public safety section for their hard work and dedication. And a few other highlights on page 11, our legal unit continues to work diligently on enforcement issues. A total of 110 legal packets were submitted to our legal unit. 256 Chief Regulation Number 4 hearings were processed, and 48 cases were completed. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Great report.
Thank you.
Just a question on the R1, R2
right.
Inspection program. I know that's a relatively new deal for us. Where you're showing 18 and 11, is there a reason why you picked out those two
Right, those were part of our pilot program.
Okay.
So we did conduct that. Remember, this is from fourth quarter. So we wanted to look at it more from a risk assessment in regard to where the greatest risk was within the R1s, R2s, and just to educate everybody. We did this pilot. We're now have to conduct annual inspections on apartments from 3 units to 15 units. In the past, that wasn't being done. So last year, we really concentrated on that pilot program. We pushed it out to the field for a pilot program. And then as of January 1, the FPB has dedicated ourselves and committed ourselves to absorbing that additional workload, which is 54,000 additional inspections. So at this point, it's the Bureau's responsibility. We're covering that with light duty trained members as well as V hours at this point. Long-term strategy would be to, I guess we would put together a apartment inspection unit, which would cover R1s, R2s, and we'd be able to absorb some of the work from the field, in which would be the garden style as well as the center hallways. But that's about 2 years down the road, but that's our long-term strategy for R1s, R2s.
I see. Work in progress.
Right.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
A very good report. Thank you very much. I love seeing the decline in the work to be done. From that's really great. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Also with the Cooper report, it was outstanding. I had a question about the overall pending inspections for the schools and churches. Do you know how many of those are schools? It says it's 108, but
You know what page you're on, ma'am?
oh, 5.
Page 5. Yeah, we actually have that all combined, but if you'd like on the next one, we can compartmentalize schools, institutions, and churches separately if you'd like to see that as a separate category.
That would be good. 'Cause
Sure thing.
I have a big concern about schools being safe.
Absolutely.
And but the overall goal is wonderful, 97. And, you can't beat that. But I just wanted to know how many of those. So that's a great idea. Thank you very much for that.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Move to adopt the recommendation for item 5C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we don't have any public comments, so
Move to adjourn.
all in favor? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.